well-tilled, little pockets well-filled. Farmer John's dad, Dauphin, Manitoba. Hello, I'm Tamara Michelle. This is Real Conversations podcast, recorded in the rural municipality of Dauphin, Manitoba, with special guest, Farmer John of Crooked Creek Farms. Today, we revisit his family farm to learn a little bit about soil degradation. We take a look at his fall rye and winter wheat, and I get a lesson on the family tractor called Little Fergie. Thank you to our show sponsors. Bankert Marketing, Dr. Brenna and Three Graces Medispa, Real Security Solutions, Roofs, Furniture and Appliances of Dauphin, Oil Depot of Dauphin, Tri-Family Health, Beauty and Fine Gifts of the Paw, Ramsey's Health and Fitness of Dauphin, Cloud9 Canna Supplies of Dauphin, and Hearts to Nature Fine Art Nature Photography. We're back here on Real Conversations podcast. And today I have a special guest, Farmer John. Thanks for joining us today, Farmer John. We're going to be competing with your bird life in your yard. We've had a whole bunch of seagulls that have been around, well, pretty much the entire day. And right. I see we've got some, I don't know.
Magpies.
Oh, is that what it is? Magpies. I said they're not ravens, but...
No.
So... We're going to talk about a few things today. I know we've got some exciting things coming up, including discussions about the water and what's happened with all of the rain and the extra moisture that we've had for this growing season for the farmers. Also, I understand you're going to let me take one of your tractors for a spin, so I'm kind of excited about that, so we'll leave that surprise kind of for later. But first, we're just going to go to a quick video here about some of the beautiful, you call them marsh marigolds.
Yeah, they're first sign of spring. They're usually when you see them, you're going to the field to seed generally. A lot of years. This year we're not, but they come up really quick in the spring, and they're after the crocuses, but they're one of the early flowers to get blooming, and they always look so pretty. So.
Okay, so we went to take a look at a few things. We went to see your fall rye, your winter wheat, and we also went to take a look at some of the soil degradation that has happened as a result of the water runoff from all the moisture that we've had. Did you want to speak to that a little bit about, some of the things that you do to prevent your field when you have really wet seasons from draining into the ditches, basically?
Right. Well, by leaving a buffer strip or a headland of grass, probably anywhere from 15 to 30 feet, and then I mow it, it's like a filter around the edge of your fields, and the water, in a year like this where we have a lot of snow and excessive rains in the spring, the water rushes off the field too fast, and when you're farming right to the very edge and over into the ditch, it just can't help it but cut a big gully and make a big, huge hole in your field, and then that's very difficult, and it puts this great big bar of dirt in the ditch that's unreclaimable. And you're spraying. When you spray and you fertilize, you're also too close to the ditch, and you're possibly causing some leaching into the water that's in the ditches, running into the lakes and stuff like that. So by staying back, it's more habitat for round nesting birds. It's a filter so that the water doesn't run off too fast off your field. And you can see from the difference along our field, there are no gullies because it just can't run. It's stopped by about 30 feet of sod, and that's we've always done it that way. And this year it really shows up. We've had some drier years, and people have gotten away and haven't had problems, but it really shows up in a year like this when big ag is pushing a lot of, generally speaking, too close into the ditches, and that's the result of that's what we're seeing this year. So.
We're out for a ride in the Crooked Creeks in the digs with the wheels today, and you're showing me a little bit about soil degradation, and we were talking about headlands, or buffer strips, I think you called them.
Yep.
Now you were saying how that really affects soil erosion and degradation. Can you just talk about that a little bit, and we'll give an example here to those watching?
Well, when you farm as close as this is to the ditch, he hangs his sprayer, and you can see that the grass is all brown, and when he fertilizes, that's awfully close to leaching potentially into this water and running downstream. Whereas when you get up to my place, I'm about 40 feet back from the 30 feet back, and there's a grass strip which I'm not spraying, I'm not fertilizing, I'm not right into the ditch. and you're not getting a big bar of dirt like you're seeing here that washed off this field. There's nothing washed off my field. And
so this would be a perfect example, like right here.
You'll never be able to get that dirt is basically lost.
From my understanding, when it comes to even algae in the lakes and, you know, the phosphorus and all those things that cause the algae blooms, that sometimes is caused by fertilizers and soaps and, right? Yeah. So, I mean, the less we put in the ditches, the less ends up in our rivers and streams, and essentially that would be Dauphin Lake for us.
Right. And so and also the glyphosate, which is basically the active ingredient in Roundup, which kills everything. So you'll see these big brown dead, and the grass is all killed, and not some of that. It's just really bad along the edge of the fields, and it's by me, if you'll see, I'm all green around the edges, and we've got like lots of habitat, and it doesn't get sprayed, and we keep back, so our fertilizer and chemical is much harder for it to leach. It just doesn't get into it's not as bad as when you're really close to the ditch. So for sure. So
and I guess that's a good opportunity to talk a little bit about your fall rye, because in the same way, if you have a root system close by the ditches and the grasses, it's gonna choke out the weeds, right? When you kill that, weeds have an opportunity to go in because they just have fertile soil and there's nothing actually claiming that soil, right? It's just debris that's basically being absorbed back into, mulch is being absorbed back into the land. So your fall rye, we're gonna take a look at that right now. And what did you want to say about that? Because I know we saw that about 6-7 weeks ago. And now we had all this rain, which was not expected, of course. and now we're in a situation where you've got some land that's basically, if you had winter or fall crop on there, seed waiting for the spring, some of it is gone completely. But that's not the case with your winter or your fall rye.
No, fall rye is pretty bulletproof. It's very tough. It's hard. If they grow it in Siberia, they grow it in extreme conditions. It's very tough, and it's wintered through. But I did put it in canola stubble, which traps a certain amount of snow, and that's a good thing. And it's just going great guns here now with this heat that we're getting and the moisture we've had. There's no spring crop that's going to be as advanced at that as this year. With some years past, when you get going and you're seeding in April, you can almost get a spring crop as advanced as you would see this rye, awfully close, but not this year. Nobody's going to have it's off to the races. It's canopying. It's sheltering out the weeds. We're not going to have to spray the field. There's a whole bunch of win-wins there with that. And no fertilizer. We'll put some fertilizer on, hopefully, if we can get the field dry enough to spread a little bit onto it. We're going to put some potash because this sandy land that I have is weak and is low in potash, and potash is a strong key link in the chain, if you will, when you're growing something. If one thing is missing on the chain, they say links of a chain, and that's your whole growing program. If this link is missing, and potash is one of them, and you're weak, you need to supplement a little bit of potash to make the chain strong, so that the plant has everything that needs to, and it's good for root development and lots of just the health of the plant. So and nitrogen, of course, feeds the plant and makes it produce more. So
all right, and we're going to take a look right now at that kind of the before and after.
Yeah, you can see the rye here, how it grows sort of sideways like this, so it's going to shield and canopy over and cover. And there's some little volunteer canola here, and they've already been eaten with flea beetles, but they're going to have a hard time when this gets. It'll actually shade them and naturally just keep them from getting very, very, very growing very well, and the rye just takes off, and so nature looks after its own here.
So Farmer John, we were out here, I don't know, approximately maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago, taking a look at your fall rye, and what a difference. This field is made quite the transformation, and yet this is such a slow year, you were saying.
Yeah, but it's just it's got moisture, and we're getting heat, and you could almost watch it grow here. I think if you sat here, you could see it. It's leafing out. It's starting to canopy already, and there's some little weeds that are thinking about growing here, but they're going to get choked out because that's what rye does. It canopies. It canopies out and grows sideways and shades, and then it makes it tough for the weeds to grow, so we don't have to spray this field. This field won't see any chemicals.
So the weeds are clamoring for sunlight.
Yeah, and the rye canopies over and grows sideways is what before it grows up. Kind of the leaves go this way and then it goes up. That's a natural effect. Also, it has an allelopathic effect in the soil too. That somehow it puts something into the dirt that makes other plants kind of hard to grow. Rye has the ability to do
like an anti-weed.
Yes, kind of. It's an allelopathic effect. It's called. It comes out and it puts something into the soil, and you can see there's some little weeds here, but they're really struggling, and pretty soon they're going to get shaded, and they won't be able to grow very well. And like I said, we won't be spraying this field. So.
Very neat. Well, I can't wait to take a look at this in another month and see where we're at. And then moving on to your, now it is your winter wheat.
Yeah.
We did a drive-by on that field, and it was a bit shocking because what was that saying that you said to me 6 or 7 weeks ago?
Yeah, well, just because it's green doesn't mean it's alive, and just because it's brown doesn't mean it's dead. But now you can, at this time of the year, when it's still brown at the end of May, it's probably dead. But you shouldn't be quick to rate a crop off too early because it can come back from the crown of the plant. But we've given it time now, and you can see that it's just... But there are some bright spots, or rather oases out in that field that are just really nice, where they had an extra amount of snow on them.
Yeah.
And the winter wheat.
And the right drainage, right?
Yeah, it was, at the ridge there where you can see it's just, yeah, it's really good.
It looks like a golf green, actually.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe we're like the rough, not really because it's too tall to be a green. But
there's only about an acre too. I think I'm going to have to get crop insurance. We're probably going to, they'll write, I can get some help to reseed that, to reseeding benefit. It's not much, but it's a little bit to go towards. If the field dries up, if we get some dryness, if moving forward, if we keep getting rain and it turns cool again, gets into June, it's going to be a challenge to get that, because the field, you could see where I was pushing my heel in there, it was just really the ground is very saturated. It's just...
Right.
So yeah, this field is it's mushy here, it's mucky, and it's just total winter kill. We'll have to reseed this if it dries out enough.
So this was, when we came before, 7 weeks before, this was looking not too bad at the time, and now we've had all that rain. Yeah. So you figure it's not just the rain, it's actually winter kill.
Winter kill over. It didn't have enough snow cover, and yeah.
And then we have down here,
but you will see
to the south, the knoll. There's that hill that we had seen that was green, and it is looking just like
beautiful.
Yeah, we're gonna go take a look at that up close.
About an acre there. So.
And here's the knoll. So
this had a huge snowbank over here, and that's some moss. If the whole field looked like this, this would be a bumper crop, a huge crop, massive.
So this is actually what you would say winter wheat is supposed to look like when it does exceptionally well.
Yeah, if it made it through the winter, it would look like this, not like that.
Okay.
And you can.
And the thickness of it.
This is just.
It looks like a golf course.
It's
rough.
It's really beautiful. It's a shame, really, and if it gets too late, it may end up just leaving this and harvest these little tiny bits. If it's still too wet and I can't do anything with this, we may have to just leave this and harvest what we can here, which won't be much, but that's worse. That's possible if it gets into June and I can't seed anything else. So.
And tell me one last thing, because you piqued my interest. This tree, way in the back here, this gorgeous old oak.
Yeah, my grandpa moved there when he moved here in 1924. They had a house by that oak. There's a well by that tree, and he had his house up there. They lived there for one winter or one summer, I think, by that oak tree.
It's gorgeous. And you say you farm around it. Most farmers wouldn't, but you do?
I work around it, and my spray guys, they get after me because they have a hard time spraying around it, but...
You said it's a great place to take a little nap.
It's nice. You can stop the tractor there, and you're in the middle of summer. That tree there'll be shade there in the middle of summer on a hot day.
So you're saying there are some benefits then to farming more, I guess, environmentally, right?
Yeah, well, that tree has symbolic significance just because my grandpa lived there, and it was probably there when that's an old tree. I don't know how old it would be, but I mean, same with these trees right here. This is an old one here too, but. They gotta be 100 years old. I mean,
for sure.
I don't know, but if the tree could talk.
So this is a really, as far as growing season, like in comparison to last year, I mean, you were in the tractor, you said May 1st, right?
Yeah, end of April, beginning of May, yeah, for sure, yeah.
So this has already set you back by 4 weeks of growing.
3 weeks at least, yeah.
And with the rain, you're still not going to be on some of those fields or the moisture that's still left behind from all the rains that we've had.
Right.
Even if it warms up, what does that look like for your growing season? And when would be the earliest you can take those crops off?
Well, everything's going to get seeded a bit later, and crop insurance deadlines are still aren't passed yet. It's just that your yield potential tends to drop as a little bit later you seed. There may be some more canola growing, because canola you can seed till the 10th of June. Soybeans now they've moved it to the 4th of June is the new deadline to seed to get coverage. But you always want to be seeding. That's sort of like the very last. And
the best case scenario, even if you seed by then, you have to have prime growing conditions.
Everything's got to, Mother Nature's got to work with us at the tail end of the season, or towards the end of the season, to help that we don't get an early frost, or we could have it's going to be a challenging harvest, because it's going to make everything a little that much later. So every day or two in the spring is usually 3 or 4 days in the fall can even make it worse than that. So every day late that you seed moves your potential harvest date 3 or 4 days. So you're out to the end of September, mid-September to late September, instead of end of August to mid-September. So you're just dealing with shorter days, more risk of frost, harder to get the dry down. There's a lot of things that can affect how this crop.
And I know that we talked a little bit about the food shortages that they're talking about around the world. I mean, whether you watch the news or you don't watch the news, I think people are pretty aware that there's, you go to the grocery stores, things are not what they were, even with COVID and all the shutdowns, and just with all the criteria of having to work 6 feet apart. Like, it does affect every range of food production to mechanical, like anything that you produce, it's being affected. How do you see, like, in your opinion, how do you see what's happening here? How far does that ripple?
Well, we're going to try and grow what we can here to keep things going. I think there'll be a fair bit of wheat going in the ground this year, because there's going to be some problems with wheat coming out of that Black Sea, out of that Ukraine region there. So, and canola is sunflower oil is going to be short because of Ukrainian shipments, and some of the ports are damaged over there. So we're going to we need to kind of step up, and we need to be growing hopefully as much as we can on every acre, ideally, to try and keep things the equilibrium around
picking up the slack, sort of.
Yeah,
right,
to try and mitigate the losses over there. We'll try to, and the United States is pushing a big crop. They're having some delays too in seeding, but I think you're going to see a lot of corner to corner. Like, they're not going to be, if they concede, there's an incentive. It's going to be the most expensive crop I've ever put in. Like, that's what everybody's saying. It's going to be, your input costs are just fuel, fertilizer, inputs, labor, everything we buy to put, and machinery parts, rubber tires, whatever you buy for your machinery, it's gone high. So our costs we need these prices to stay, or there's just going to be no margin left to pay the bills, because our input costs are just so high this year, historically, astronomically higher than anybody's ever experienced.
This is almost going back to like I mean, we know that about the dirty 30s, and we know about, like, there was a time, right, like 1930s, right? And that did really affect everything, right? So when it comes to food production and stuff, if we can't keep the costs down for the farmers, so I guess that's what I'm just going to throw that in there. Just everyone who's listening or watching, keep in mind that when you vote for your politicians and you vote politically, think about these things, because if we have a leadership in our country that is not supporting our farmers and our food producers, we're going to be in really big trouble. So I'll just leave that on the sidebar. So John, we are going to now go and take a look at this tractor that you said is a family heirloom, basically.
Yeah, it's been here all its life, I guess. So my grandpa bought it new, and he used it like a car. There's pictures of him, and I think I showed you on the fender there where his elbow rested in his hand. You can see he's worn the paint right down to the primer, right down to the bare metal. So I don't want to repaint the tractor just because it has symbolic significance of the.
It's the energy of him.
Pretty cool. When you put your hand there, you can just feel. You can feel that's the way he used to drive it, and he really liked that little fergie of his. That was his favorite little tractor. So
that's neat.
And it's done a lot of. It still clears snow. I use it all winter to clear snow out of the yard. It has a front end loader. We do a little loader work with it.
And what year again?
1956.
So yeah, that's
So Farmer John and I have one last piece today, and that is regarding a very special tractor. Can you give me some history on this, John?
Yes, my grandfather bought this tractor new in April of 1956. He paid $2,370 for this tractor, and it's been on the farm here ever since. It's never left. It's got over 10,000 hours.
Now, I know I was saying to you, it's interesting that it's in hours, not in miles or kilometers.
Yeah, that's what tractors generally record in hours, because you don't put them out. You go by the amount of time it's running. So
okay,
it's an hour thing. But if you had this on a highway machine and you were driving, say, 40 or 50 miles an hour, that's the equivalent of about 500,000 miles.
Oh,
so
that's like 500,000.
500,000 miles at 50 miles an hour average. So sometimes you'd be going faster than that, sometimes slower. But so it's been well driven. The seat's been recovered, but this is all original tin, and the metal's all original. It's never been repainted, and we use it in the winter to plow snow, and I have a snow blower for it, and it has a front end loader that fits on here. These cylinders will have a loader. It's a very handy little tractor. So we've got a little space on the side here where my grandfather, if you see pictures of my grandpa, he always rode like this, and the paint is worn off where his thumb was here, his hand, and his elbow. And for that reason, I don't want to repaint it, because he's worn it right down below the primer, and you can see this is where his imprint here. So
it's very sentimental.
When you sit like this, I think about Grandpa. He had the same name as me, and so he used this tractor. He used to take it to town. It was like he didn't have a vehicle, he didn't have a car. He used this like a little car, so it was his little baby. And he so much here, he just wore the paint off.
And this is also, I'm just gonna kind of scroll up here. This is a Ferguson, you said.
Yeah, affectionately we refer to as a fergie. Generally speaking, they call these fergies.
And again, what year was this made?
1956.
That's incredible. They're so beautiful. Let's do
headlights. We have a pair of headlights for them. They're kind of cool. They fit on the side, but they have to come off so we can run the front end loader. I have them in the shed here, but they're like a old style, like a big bulb, like a car, like the old cars. And they would actually fit one of those little holes in the side there, and you'd have two headlights on it.
So beautiful. And you said you're going to give me a quick lesson and let me have a ride on this, or do you do a little drive around?
You want to drive? Yeah, it's we all learned to drive in this tractor. I did. Most of my sisters did. This was our first father let us drive on. So it's taught a lot of kids how to drive.
All right. Well, hopefully I'm a quick learner. Here we go. So, Farmer John, you're going to give me some instructions on how to drive this thing?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You got to put your foot in the clutch. Okay. And you're going to find a gear, your first, second, third, try second or third, whichever gear you want there.
Okay, so this is...
That's first.
Down?
That's really creeper gear, yeah.
That's creeper gear?
That's creeper. Then over and up is second, and then third.
And third.
Third. I think you're in second or third.
Okay. So, and then this is the throttle?
And your throttle is right here.
Okay.
Pull it down.
And these are brakes?
And if you need to split the speed you're going, you should be okay, I think.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right, so I will try creeper gear to start.
Yeah, just to show how slow it goes. It's pretty slow.
Here we go.
You're officially winning the slow tractor race.
Dr. Brenna and Three Graces Medispa has been inspiring love, confidence, and health in humanity since 2019. Dr. Brenna's skin therapists have the advanced knowledge required to revitalize and rejuvenate your skin. Radiofrequency, microneedles, chemical peels, and Oxygen Neo superfacials are just a couple of the treatments we offer. To learn more about Dr. Brenna and Three Graces Medispa, visit our website at threegraces.ca or call us at 204-572-5774 for a free consultation. A special thank you to Bankert Marketing for audio and video syncing. Thank you to our show sponsors, Bankert Marketing, Dr. Brenna and Three Graces Medispa, Real Security Solutions, Roofs, Furniture and Appliances of Dauphin, Oil Depot of Dauphin, Tri-Family Health, Beauty and Fine Gifts of the Paw, Ramsey's Health and Fitness of Dauphin, Cloud9 Canna Supplies of Dauphin, and Hearts to Nature Fine Art Nature Photography. Like and subscribe on YouTube at Tamara Michelle. See you next week.